Today we're discussing a pretty significant topic, something I've been wanting to cover for a long time, but because of my attachment to this character, I've been holding off, but I can't hold off anymore because, well, I said I'll talk about it. And you can basically tell off the title, we're going to talk about what if Ace did not die at Marineford. And so, the three things I want you guys to pay attention to is the three P's: personality, power, and pumpkin. Huh? And pumpkin, that's my favorite flavor of donuts. So joke. The actual P is position. Personality, power, and position. Those are the three P's we're going to use to discuss these scenarios. And so we're going to have three possible scenarios here for Ace if he survived. So the first thing we got to talk about is when Ace died, who would survive? In this scenario, Whitebeard obviously dies and Ace lives and he goes on. And of course, based on everything that transpired in Marineford, he's now hell-bent on getting revenge. Or is he? So let's set it up. Blackbeard still lives because he acquired Whitebeard's devil fruit, and he's in a position now where he's vying for a title of Yonko. Marco does not have to necessarily step up and be the person that's accepted as Yonko or Yonko candidate because Ace is there, and I think Ace would probably be the person that's thrust forward because that's what Whitebeard probably would have wanted. And Marco, more than likely, he's comfortable being in his position as the first commander, but they probably have to recruit someone as well. So that's what we're going to cover here. We're going to cover three scenarios: Whitebeard Pirates recruiting someone to fill the second commander position and maybe the fourth commander as well because Thatch is now dead, and what Ace's decision is based on what's currently going on. At this point in the world, we're going into the time skip. It's a new era. Whitebeard is dead. Ace did survive and he got away with the Whitebeard Pirates, and now he has to figure out what exactly is he going to do. Now, Luffy aside, it depends on exactly what Luffy would like to do because does Rayleigh still go and suggest that Luffy train because Ace doesn't die, but now everyone knows that Ace is Roger's son. What about this scenario? Rayleigh suggests, no, wait, we're gonna save that for the end. Let's talk about these three scenarios. The first scenario is Ace joins Luffy. This is pretty much unlikely considering just how their journeys began and how they wanted to live their life and their pirate careers. If they were so hell-bent on being together and actually becoming pirates and traveling together, they would have made a pact that after Luffy set out, they'd meet up and then they would battle for the top spot of the person being captain. But from the beginning, they had different goals. Luffy wanted to become Pirate King, Ace wanted a father. And so with that perspective, there's no way they would actually mesh on a crew. And even after the devastating loss of Whitebeard, there's no way I see Ace joining Luffy as his subordinate because Straw Hat is not going to be the backup to Ace. And at that point, Luffy probably gets a lot of acclaim considering what actually happened. He broke out of Impel Down, managed to break into Marineford and technically free Ace, lead the charge, because the other person other than Whitebeard that probably get the most acclaim is Luffy, and Whitebeard's dead. So he still gets that acclaim. There's no way he's stepping down to be second fiddle to even his big brother. So Ace does not join the Straw Hats. Even though it'd be cool to see them on the same crew, it's not plausible considering Ace's position and his responsibility based on the void that's left by not only Blackbeard, Thatch, but also Whitebeard and one of Josu's arms. It's interesting. That first scenario is out of the window. Now, the scenario I was going to present in this case is another reason why Ace wouldn't join Luffy's crew is because I think Rayleigh still asks Luffy, hey, I think you should go and train because you can't compete with some of these top guys. And Luffy, in that war, he still stumbles, but Ace is able to block Akaino's attack and he does not die. But Luffy realizes the traumatic experience and how it could have gone really badly if Ace did not block that attack. And he could have died because he had to rely on royal honey packs, and because of that, it almost cost him and his brother's life. So based on that, maybe Luffy goes away for 2 years and trains with Rayleigh to then come back and compete with Ace. And that's another reason why Ace, after everything that goes down, can't just disappear for 2 years. Now, I do think Rayleigh probably asked Ace as well, hey, I'm gonna go train Luffy. You're Roger's son, out of obligation, and based on what Roger said, back then your dad said his son would become the Pirate King. I think off of those words, Ace would turn it down because Ace still does not understand the impact of Roger and how it relates to him. And I think off of those words and basically based on how Whitebeard just died, the last thing he'd want to hear about is Roger, and he would turn down Roger's right-hand man because he would say he is not his father, and so Rayleigh would go on and train Luffy in the background while Ace continues his journey. That's the first scenario. The second scenario is Ace becoming the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates and then continuing his journey to become stronger to defeat Blackbeard eventually. This presents a bunch of problems in the story or the narrative based on how Oda wanted to write it, and that's because it has to revolve around Luffy, and Ace being as charismatic and strong as he is. He's Luffy but a bit upgraded, just doesn't have a god fruit that's based on somewhat destiny and things that are meant to happen. So off of that, Luffy still probably surpasses Ace because I don't know how the Mermaid no Mi competes with something like Gear 5, alive. But let's focus on Ace's story for a bit. Ace goes back and he's the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates. Now, the first thing is on his mind is revenge and going after someone like Teach. But do you think based off of everything that transpired in Marineford and also the L that he took to Blackbeard already, he would learn his lesson and say, I'm not ready for something like that yet. Pops didn't want me to go anyway. Pops would not want me to go and avenge him right away. Let's go back and let's hunker down before we go and attack Blackbeard. The issue here is that Ace assumes Blackbeard will let them do that. And considering Blackbeard's power high and also already beating Ace, if Ace takes over as captain, Blackbeard would be uber confident that he can actually beat Ace again and then take over Whitebeard's territories. And that's exactly what happens. Ace tries to hunker down and protect Whitebeard's assets. Blackbeard goes after it. He annihilates the Whitebeard Pirates because I don't think Ace puts up much of a fight against Blackbeard, because Blackbeard now has 2 devil fruits. He lost them when he had 1. So the Whitebeard Pirates, essentially, they split up again, and Ace becomes a rogue pirate trying to search for some identity, and that leads to the third scenario. Ace becomes a revolutionary. For you people that didn't read the Ace novel, something that happened in that novel is Ace met Shanks and Ben Beckman. Now, after everything that transpired, after they met, Shanks realized that Ace is actually Roger's son, but they had a crazy analysis of this character and said, Ace is buns. Not necessarily, but it said Ace is trying to change the world by doing great things to surpass his dad or his dad's name, and he's going about it in a way that's more reminiscent of a revolutionary. And that's the third scenario. Ace joins the revolutionaries. And what I love about this is that how the second scenario and the third scenario, how well it ties together, because I think the Whitebeard Pirates, they get annihilated either way, because Blackbeard, he already has that confidence. He's not going to let them just settle in. And Ace, I don't care. He's not changing the outcome of that battle. The Payback War was overwhelming without Ace. With Ace, it's still going to be overwhelming because Ace cannot figure out in that short a time how to stop someone like Blackbeard. So now Ace doesn't have a crew, does not have anything around him. Luffy is gone for 1.5 years, 2 years. Ace has to figure out what to do, and then boom, Sabo finds Ace, and Ace at this point is just losing his mind because he thought his brother was dead. And Sabo remembers Ace because of Marineford, and he's been searching for Ace all this time. But another tricky scenario is if Ace finds out Sabo is alive before Blackbeard gets to him, and then he tries to recruit Sabo to his crew, would Sabo actually join them? That's a difficult thing to figure out because Sabo lost his brother, and Ace trying to recruit Sabo as the second commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. How would that look at that point? Sabo, the second commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, Ace is the captain, then we have Marco as the first commander. That's a pretty well-rounded crew considering they don't have to depend on devil fruits as much. Would they put up a better fight against Blackbeard? Probably, but I think ultimately they could still lose. But Sabo is such a valuable asset. I'm willing to bet that they could come out with a probable tie where Blackbeard does not overwhelm, and it remains open-ended until they fight again. But that takes away from Luffy's goal, does it not? Because Blackbeard, we presume, is Luffy's fight, and then it would change up the entire story if Ace doesn't die, because then the Blackbeard and Luffy matchup does not have as much significance unless Blackbeard ultimately kills Ace when they match up, because Ace just isn't strong enough. He doesn't want to turn him into the world government again. He just offs him right there. But that's a scenario with Sabo joining the Whitebeard Pirates. The third scenario is actually Ace joining the Revolutionaries, because that's pretty much what he's trying to do. That fits more with his personality and his actual goal. Ace is trying to erase the legend, the lore of Gold Roger, but he's going about it in a way which probably isn't sustainable. Why isn't it sustainable? Well, Gold Roger is probably currently the greatest pirate to ever live. You're trying to make it seem like he's the dad of Ace rather than Ace being the son of Gold Roger. And for you to do that, you have to do exceptional things, probably to the level of someone like Rocks, where you become the king of the world, where they have to damn near try to erase your memory for them to forget about Gold Roger. And that's just, it's such a high bar. It's pretty much improbable. You go to the Revolutionaries and you learn their ways, you reconnect with your brother. Maybe you calm down a bit in regards to getting revenge on a ghost that's not there because you were suffering because of the last name. Maybe you grow out of that being around Ivankov, Kuma, even Hack, and obviously Sabo and Koala. You get to the point where you now want to change the world for the better, so more kids do not go through what you went through, and maybe you go back to Wano and try to liberate that country because you can do things like that before. I think out of these three scenarios, obviously destroying Luffy, secondly becoming captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, I think it goes down the same road again. Third, the most likely scenario, he becomes a revolutionary, then he goes about changing the world. And how great would it be that he goes to Dragon and Sabo, all from Great Terminal, and collectively there will be monsters who will be the second in command at that point. I mean, Ace was stronger than Sabo back then. I have no reason to believe that Sabo has surpassed Ace, so the revolutionaries would be stronger and much better. And with Ace being a bit more focused and a bit more determined on changing the world for the better, not being toxic for his own personal desires, that would add more cachet to the revolutionaries if it had Gold Roger, Sabo, and now Dragon, because you have the son of the Pirate King actively creating a force against the world government. It's like things coming full circle. Roger created not only an era of pirates to contest the world government, but also an organization that is spearheaded by his son. It would bring things together so well, and again, it would fit Ace in everything he was trying to accomplish. Let's jump all the way to Dressrosa, and let's say it plays out the same way. Then we have Ace and Sabo in Dressrosa. Things become a bit more ridiculous because now we have Ace and Sabo. How do you keep both of them away from Doflamingo long enough for Luffy to get the W that he deserves so that Fujitora can prostrate and then the world can see Dressrosa or the world government for who they really are? Then the story can move forward that way. Okay, so in the midst of editing this, I had a great idea. We were talking about Dressrosa and how it'd be overwhelming with Ace and Sabo being in Dressrosa and how it makes sense with Doflamingo. In Dressrosa, Fujitora shows up. If Ace does survive and join the revolutionaries and him and Sabo show up in Dressrosa, it makes more sense for not only Fujitora to show up to Dressrosa, but also Green Bull. And how great would it be seeing that dynamic dealing with Doflamingo, because we know how Green Bull respects the Celestial Dragons and Fujitora's perspective. But then also at the end where Akainu is chewing out Fujitora, we have Green Bull on the other end who's prostrating damn near and trying to defend Akainu, and we see the fanboyism coming out. But because of the interactions in Dressrosa, it sets up an amazing clash and foreshadow for what happens in Mary Joa. Wouldn't that be amazing though? And again, this makes more sense if Ace survives. And why I say it would be great, again, is based off Green Bull's personality and what we know about him, but also, I don't know if it'd be anti-Doflamingo and everything he was doing. While he should be helping someone like Fujitora, there would probably be times he would get in his way, or think of this iconic clash where Doflamingo, he attacked Fujitora. In this instance, Fujitora goes and attacks Doflamingo, and Green Bull steps in front of it because he's like, what are you doing? This is not what we came here for. Also, why are you raising your hand to the gods? Just something interesting I thought I'd throw in because I think it would make a lot more sense. It presents so many problems and we have to change up so much. However, I firmly believe if Ace did live, more than likely he would become a revolutionary because that fits more in line with who he was and who he was going to be. I do think initially he tries to be the captain, but he gets overwhelmed because he's just not ready and he's not strong enough. If he goes and trains with Rayleigh, I think Blackbeard eventually becomes the Yonko because the Whitebeard pirate. They would then have to fight Blackbeard regardless because he's going after that territory regardless, and they still take an L. Ace comes back. There's no pirate crew to return to. He's not joining Luffy. He still goes up and becomes a revolutionary. So it's just in his destiny if he didn't die, I think. But guys, what do you think? What does Ace do if he doesn't die? You can choose out of those 3 scenarios, or maybe you have one of your own that you think I didn't touch on. Leave your thoughts below, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.